Happy New Year, everyone. Get it? Happy? No. Oh well, it's cause I'm white Korean. I'm half Asian. Anyways, that was an awkward intro, and I intended it to be that way. But anyways, Happy New Year, everyone. It's the Friday, and well, it's not New Year's by the time I'm recording this, but by the time you're listening to this, Happy New Year. It's 2021. Hopefully, everyone gets the vaccines. Hopefully sometime by the spring. I've heard maybe it's likely to be in the summer, if not the fall, which is, I don't even want to think about the timeline at this point. I'm just gonna let 2021 do its thing, and hopefully it's just a better year for you, for everyone else, and myself as well. Now, it's morning tea. It's episode 6 of the Dwell and Tiger podcast, and if you're new to this series, or well, to this podcast in generally, we just talk about a lot of stuff that we tend to dwell on, whether it's bizarre, controversial, juicy topics, whatnot. And this morning tea series is a short time for me to just spill the tea on myself, right? With some stories, dating stuff, experiences, or some of my thoughts and opinions on controversial / like trendy pop culture kind of topics. Anyways, today, I gotta say some stuff. So before I get into that stuff, let's check up on what my second attempt was like during this sad virtual dating / social event. I'm actually going to just consider it more as a social event, not a dating event, because that's honestly how it felt more so than dating. Just nothing was there under the context of dating, just more like meeting someone. So there's nothing really to, I guess, talk about with the second attempt that happened on the 26th. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, back in last week's Morning Tea episode, I was talking about my first attendance to this social virtual event hosted by this Asian Facebook group page called Subtle Asian Dating. And it was a bad experience overall, and it was just not good. If you want to go listen to it, man. Or girl, person. Go listen to it. You'll know what I'm talking about. But overall, I'm putting myself out there in the dating scene. And this is going to be my second attempt, or I'm now talking about my second attempt doing this social event by SAD, the Subtle Asian Dating Group page. Now, again, there's nothing really exciting or worthy to talk about with this second attempt, because me and this one girl, in which I was only paired up with this one girl for this event on the 26th, just had a normal conversation. Both of our, tongue twister. Not really, but both of our energy levels were pretty matched up, and they weren't low, so they were relatively good. We were talking about, just ourselves, about how we were doing in this pandemic, what we've been doing to cope with staying in our homes during lockdown, during quarantine. So it was just a normal conversation. I mean, honestly, there's nothing really noteworthy to mention or just to even talk about at length. It was just a normal meetup, for a 5-minute meetup. And my dressing, right, my dress, whatever you want to call it, my attire, was just a black t-shirt. I didn't even do my hair. And unlike last time where I wore this like white button-up dress shirt with no collar, I still don't know what it's called, but I wore that along with under a blue crew neck sweater. And that was just because I was trying to be a lot more presentable for like a, quote unquote date. So this time I just wanted to be casual. And I think with these mellower expectations and approach to this second attempt, I think my experience overall wasn't bad at all. So it was relatively good, but not exciting or like impressionable in my opinion. So I'm not going to do this again. I just think it's a waste of time, and I always knew for myself that I'm more of a traditionalist when it comes to dating. Like, I like to meet people more organically in the real world, I guess, if you want to say that like that. I like to meet people in real life, in person, and interact and do all that stuff, instead of like doing this on a dating on an online platform. It's not a bad situation or opportunity, but it's just not for me, and I already knew that. But again, I just wanted to put myself out there. Now, let's get into the main part of this episode. And boy, oh boy, do I have a lot of beef with someone. This stranger girl. let me oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Let me just preface by saying this. I made a self-auction post just very recently on over this weekend, I believe, or just at least a couple days ago. And it was well received, right? There was a well over 50 comments, I believe, or so, and just like over 200 likes. It's just not, that's not important. The numbers are important, but one of the more important aspects of these self-auction posts that one would make on Subtle Asian Dating, this Facebook group page, is people DMing you, right? Sliding into those DMs and shooting their shot. So with this self-auction post that I made, I have a handful of these DMs, right, from these girls. Now, this one girl in particular reached out to me, and I just decided to, just respond back, right? Just something normal, right? Nothing really stood out to me. I was just going to respond back to this one particular girl. And the conversation we had was this is the first person I've ever handled directly with, like in a sense directly, because it's over an online platform, Facebook Messenger. But this is the first time I've ever interacted with this type of an arrogant person. Just, oh my freaking goodness. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to read you guys the conversation we had, and after just thinking about it gives me just all the carbonation in my body is just bubbling up. My cap's about to burst. But anyways, I'm gonna read the conversation we had, and I'm also gonna comment on it as well, be a commentator during this reading. So let's get into it real quick. And before I actually get into it, let me preface by saying this. To give you guys a good sense overall of her overall vibe, she seemed like someone who's just very arrogant, doesn't know how to make a good argument, but her arguments were just like little kids. It's like, if someone makes a good argument towards you or towards someone, and the other person says, "Oh, but you're stupid," ha 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 ha. It's like, that sounds like a little kid. That's a stupid argument and point. Oh, you're stupid. Like, what? I don't understand. I can't even begin to understand where you're coming from. I don't understand. But anyways, her points were like that to me. Just immature, very arrogant, self-centered. She just seemed very pretentious. And let me say this. I'm not going to throw her on the bus. I'm not going to throw out any names, nor am I heavily criticizing her. Like, personally, during the time of this conversation, I was just but quite distressed because of the incredibly rude, and in my opinion, disgusting remarks she made. It got to me a little bit, but I'm not going to heavily criticize her again because this is just her opinions, right? She's allowed to have these opinions. But what the beef I had with this conversation, and with her in particular, is what she said, the content, the word in of itself, whatever she spoke. It was just flat out rude. Like, you do not say this to people. Don't say this to people. It's just so rude, so mean. Anyways, that's why I have to say to preface this conversation. And now let's begin. And also, I'm going to try to I'm going to say her lines in a higher pitch Valley Girl tone. And I'm just going to speak my lines like, just how I'm speaking right now. So let's get into this. Hold on. Actually, I'm going to drink some water. Now let's begin. So she says, "Hi." And then I said, "Hi, how are you?" And then she says, "So, how many girls responded to your post?" Laughing emoji. And then I say, "Well, it's enough to feel overwhelmed and guilty for not getting back to everyone, though I'm trying my best. I'm sure you get a lot more responses if you did one." Now let me stop there real quick. Here I fibbed a little bit about the number of girls who DM'd me, because when she responded back to my question with a question to which it's just asking about how many girls responded to my post, I was already sus. I was like, why would you ask this question? Like, what's the point? Now, I didn't really assume she had ill intent or just had any nasty intentions behind this. So I just fibbed a little bit just to see what's going on here. Now, let's continue. She says, "Really? I messaged because I thought I would have competition, LMAO. Oh yeah, how many? And then I say, there's a lot, just enough where I honestly can't respond to them all. What do you mean by you had to message due to competition? LOL. Again, I'm so sus about this. Like, again, she's asking me how many girls messaged me. Anyways, let's continue. She says, I would have no competition. And that's what she meant, actually. So, I would have no competition. Really interesting. You're not even that cute. They must be really ugly. Ha 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 ha. Sorry, have to say it, I can't. Laughing emoji. Okay. This is the first line where she shows her ugly side. Who in the heck says this just blatantly like what she did? Who in the world, unless you're literally a piece of shit, an ugly person on the inside, why would you say this? You're not even that cute. They must be really ugly. And when she said the ha ha ha's, I said it out loud because she capitalized each H and A. Ha 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 ha. Like 10 or so times. And then said, sorry, I had to say it. I can't. I'm like, dude, what's her problem? This is where I began to kind of fire back a little bit, but in a respectful manner. And let me also preface this before I continue on. Let me preface this by saying I was trying to understand where she's coming from and genuinely understand why she would say this. Like, because this is my first time directly interacting with a person like this, someone who's just as arrogant, self-centered as her. Now, if you guys cringed, you do not know how I felt in this moment of time. But let's continue. After she said this rude remark, the ha 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 ha, sorry, had to say it, laughing emoji, haha. This is what I said. For sure, if that's your opinion, I ain't mad. If you could enlighten me, why did you message me? I'm curious since what you said is quite pretentious and disgusting, but of course, it's your opinion. And then she says, what? I'm pretentious and disgusting for saying what I think, laughing emoji. Also, that's your opinion about my opinion, laughing emoji. And then I said, if I posted this on SAD, I would strongly believe that a majority of the members would agree with me, even though it's just my opinion. And okay, actually, let me say one more thing to preface this conversation before I continue on. Although the way I'm speaking, like the tone, the mannerism I'm speaking these lines in, between the girl and myself, I'm speaking my lines in the way I was saying it out loud when I was typing this. And the way I'm speaking her lines is just how I interpreted what she said, which I think were quite obvious in the tone, right? With the laughing emojis and all that crap, and with the LOLs and LMFAOs or whatever. Just I feel like how I'm speaking, the tone I'm using for her lines is kind of accurate, but I just wanted to point that out just as a disclaimer. Like, it may not be accurate, but I'm going to say that, just to give her the benefit of the doubt. Anyways, let's continue on. Now, she said to me, so I said, if I posted this on SAD, I would strongly believe that a majority of the members would agree with me, even though it's just my opinion. Now, she says, no offense meant, I was just wondering, on a normal day, I wouldn't message you, but I just wanted an Asian guy who I would have no competition over. And then I said, that's quite a self-centered line of thinking. Was this just to boost your ego/self-esteem? And then she says, not at all. I was just wondering why an overwhelming amount of girls want to message you, laughing emoji, to the point of not being able to reply to them all, LOL. And then I said, but why should that matter to you? And by the way, when she said that to me, like, she was just wondering why an overwhelming amount of girls would want to message me to the point where I can't reply to them all. Granted, I did fib, but why the hell should that matter to her? Why does it matter if I get, let's say, 1,000 girls messaging me? It wasn't like I was wanting girls, like, I didn't want to drown in DMs, but like, why does it matter to her? Like, what's her problem? It honestly, it's not her. Like, it's just I'm repeating myself without going in depth about why I think, why I'm questioning why should this be a concern of hers? Because I'm just so baffled by this line of thinking. But anyways, let's continue. I said, but why should that matter to you? And then she says, it doesn't. Just curious. It seemed weird, lol. Why are you mad though? LMAO. And then I said, you sound as if you're stating that any guy don't. Sorry, let me repeat that. I said, you sound as if you're stating that any guy you don't think is cute or any girl that is uglier than you shouldn't get positive feedback or a large amount of people messaging them in these auctions. I'm not mad. I'm just honestly curious since I've never had anyone say these kind of rude remarks to me. I'm only trying to understand. Okay. Yeah, like, dude, she is just a dick of a person when she said, why you mad though, LMAO. She is a thoughtless thought. A thoughtless thought, a bitch in of itself. She is, I'm sorry with the explicit language. I'm sorry. This is honestly not me. She, along with one other person, is the only second person ever in my life to get me this distressed. And I've mentioned before, even in my auction, that I'm a guy who is very understanding, very patient, and just very forgiving and very compassionate. Like, genuinely, I truly believe that in myself, and I'm actually proud of that. Though I'm not, I'm not trying to boast that. But she's just like, oh my God. Like, when I see these type of people who are just ignorant and just flat out rude and disrespectful, guys, I know a lot of people are nice out there, and you would agree with me. This person is a total dick. Oh, but let's continue. She says, oops, I never said guys like you shouldn't receive any attention. Around 30 or 50 DMs would make sense. But if you say a number that would make you not reply to all, I would think about around 300 DMs or so. Which is weird because, TBH, your looks don't equate to around 400 DMs laughing emoji. That's why I always kept asking for a figure. Oh my God, why is she... Dude, she's like trying to say shit about me and laughing at her own, I guess, jokes or her own remarks. Like, what? Again, what is her problem? What is her problem? And then to which I replied, this is what I mean by you being arrogant. If I did receive 200 to 300 DMs, why would it be weird? It honestly doesn't matter. When you asked about the figure, I immediately caught on LOL, which is why I never stated any number. And you guys can tell a little bit with that LOL. I'm starting to like fight back, just so, in my own little ways, in a respectful manner. Like, bah, here's a little BB to you, whatever. But now she replied, LOL, cause you don't look like 300 girls would be interested. Laughing emoji. Whatever. You're too sensitive. I don't want to keep explaining. Good luck with, quote unquote, 400 girls. LMAO. And then I replied, again, with the rudeness you're exhibiting, why can't you just be happy for others? Even if you don't care about the other person, then I suggest you stop spouting out these rude comments. And then she says, what? I never said I'm not happy, just stating my opinion about it. LMAO, you salty. It just happens to not fit your liking, that's why you mad, haha. Ha 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 ha. Sorry if that's a little cringy and annoying to you guys. I'm just repeating what she says to me. Oh my God, now at this point it's kind of funny to me. Which is good, right? Laugh at the haters, laugh at the rude people, laugh at the people who are ignorant. It's good medicine. Yeah, let's continue. So I replied, sigh. There's no getting through thick-headed people like you who only think about themselves. Hope you don't mind if I post this on SAD. And then she replies, what a crybaby bitch who asks for empathy from others for validation, LMAO. You think I'm threatened? I am not, laughing emoji. I don't care what other people say. I'm pretty and smart. And then I said, I was about to say something there. Let me continue. Let me finish up because we're almost done. So after she said, I don't care about what other people say. I'm pretty and smart. And then I replied, I'm not threatening you though. I never said that. I'm just putting out there that people like you exist on their page. Yes, I do. Surprise. And those lines, I did not understand why she said that. When I said, I'm not threatening you though, I'm just putting it out there that people like you exist on this page. And then she says, yes, I do. Surprise. Like, what? Yeah, I honestly don't understand. I have to like reread that like 100 times. But anyways, I replied, "You're honestly not making your case any better." And then she says, "Whatever, I don't have to make it better. Go on and cry on sad. LOL." And that was it. And then she blocked me, and then I blocked her, and that was that. I submitted like a, how do you say, a request to post this conversation on the Solo Asian Dating Facebook group page. And the format, let me say this, I'm not posting it to throw her on the bus. I'm just putting it out there that these people exist on this Facebook group page. Because overall, I thought this Facebook group page, Solo Asian Dating, aka SAD, was a supportive group because I saw a lot of people offering their support to these strangers. That's probably the biggest thing I value about this group page, where you can not only just obtain insight and advice and these vulnerable experiences from others, in which they're being vulnerable when they're letting out their experiences and giving their insight about situations in dating and relationships. But you can also just get support, just simple support from other people, like, "Hey, you go king," or "Hey, you go queen." It's like, it's a great platform overall, and this one person's not affecting it for me still, but I was a little taken back when this person messaged me, because wow, this person exists on this page. And like, I know people like this exist out there, and I wasn't really that surprised that that there's a handful of people on this Facebook group page who are arrogant as this person is. But again, this is my first time directly interacting with a person like this. Now, I hope you guys were able to understand the whole conversation, like I didn't muck it up, or that it was clear to you while I was speaking it. Tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if I was being hurtful towards her. Tell me if I was being immature. Because yes, I will own up that I was being a little salty with some, maybe a very few of the words. I'll just throw myself under the bus. Like, yeah, maybe I was. Like, maybe even the way I was saying, and the tone I was using when speaking her lines in this episode, maybe I'm being a bit too unfair, because I'm speaking from my side of the story. And granted, it is biased because I was on the receiving end. But the message I want to relay to everyone about what happened with me with this girl is that, damn. Like, okay, first of all, let me say this. Man, I'm still taken back by this girl. I wasn't trying to be mean to her. I wasn't trying to do any of that. Honestly, for the most part, I was genuinely trying to understand, like, why would she say, what makes a person say this kind of stuff? Like, do you just feel really good to the point where it's like, oh, actually, I feel really good saying this kind of stuff to people. So I'll just say it to people who I think I can get away with, right? It's kind of like saying, let's say, the equivalent in just currently what I can think of that's analogous to this is probably with guys who say they can pick up girls who are not as hot, but nonetheless, they think they're easy catch. I think that's still pretty rude too, because that guy is saying like, oh, if this girl is an easy catch for you to hook up with, let's say, that's very rude. That guy's a dick. Like, with no consideration for the girl. I don't know. That guy's a piece of shit. Who knows? But anyways, that's how that's equivalent to me on the guy side. I'm sure there's other scenarios and other types of guys, like toxic masculinity, that's bad, or if not as worse than my interaction with this girl and how this girl was exhibiting herself in the words she said and what I imagined her tone to be. But overall, she was just being mean. She was just being incredibly rude, and the words she was saying in particular were disgusting. And again, I didn't have like beef with the fact that she was sharing her opinion. Again, like, everything she said was so goddamn rude. Where did she get off from for saying this kind of shit? Why? Why did she need to message me? Like, why? I don't understand that. Other than just the selfish act for self-fulfillment and boosting your ego and self-esteem and your image, like just feeling good, filling yourself up by just saying this kind of crap to other people who you think is lower than you in whatever means, whether it's in looks, maybe intellect, whatever. And it's stupid, in my opinion. It doesn't I see no value in it. It's so toxic. And let me say this too. one thing about myself when I say I'm shy and I'm an awkward guy, even when I say like I'm very shy, I was a lot more I was a lot shyer back then than I am now. And because I was shy, when I approached people or when I see girls, and I'll just talk about girls for now and not guys, because it's a different kind of a line of thought, but somewhat similar. But anyways, like when I see girls who are good looking, who are very pretty, hot, beautiful, whatever, objectively hot, whatever you want to say, right? Just from my opinion as well, I was so intimidated by them because this is how I thought that most girls acted. Now, granted, I'm not saying all girls act like this way. I knew that for sure, but it was just an irrational fear of mine. Irrational. Let me point that out. I'm owning up to it. Irrational fear of mine. I thought girls who are hot, and I'm not saying this girl was hot. She was okay looking, but yeah, she was not that hot. Whatever. Right? Good on her. She has this high of a confidence in her looks and her intellect. Whatever. I was so intimidated by girls. One big reason being that, I thought they just thought they were better than me. And I felt like, oh wait, this girl's better than me. They're super good looking. They're probably super smart. They probably do all the sports. They're probably in like all these high honors programs or whatever. They probably got the highest GPA, and she still has super good looks and she's able to like have a social life. She's going to judge me. Like, this is how I thought of girls. Maybe not to the extent of how this girl that I interacted over this my self-auction post was, as being arrogant or incredibly arrogant and self-centered, but I was just intimidated nonetheless by girls because I just thought they would judge me. Not harshly, but just judge me nonetheless. Like, I'm not a good enough guy. And it's changed now. Like, I don't really have that irrational fear. I don't know. Fear is probably too strong a word. It was just, I was just scared. Intimidated is a better word for me to use. I was just intimidated because of the fact that I would be judged. Even though, again, that was irrational. Yeah, that was irrational line of thought. But yeah, now I can laugh at this. And what helped me a lot, this is kind of going back to episode 3, where I was talking about how to get back on the saddle, when you're in a deep hole and you're trying to get back on doing the things you should be doing or want to do. On episode 3, this is where I talked about where having friends or family whom you could talk to and express to helps so much. It's like probably one of the top 3, if not top 2, maybe your number 1 thing to do to just vent or to relieve some of the burden and the stress you're feeling. Because I texted my friend, and boy, when I vented to her, we laughed it off. She agreed with me. We cringed. She cringed, and she agreed with me on the stuff she said. And I wasn't looking for validation from her, like that I'm in the right and that she's in the wrong. I just wanted someone to vent to, and oh my god, it felt so good to vent to her. And I'm very grateful she was just able to listen to me and laugh it off with me, and yeah, just to be there, just to listen, to vent. So I really appreciate that about her, man. Yeah, I value her a lot. She's a very good friend. I've known her since like freshman year, a little bit before freshman year, but for over 5 years now, just 5 years or so. Yeah, that's quite a bit. Wow. Anyways, that's what happened with me. That's the juicy details that's been on my mind. And that took forever. Holy shit. Excuse my language. I was going to allow myself to curse during this vent because, man, it got heated. Oh, I hope you guys felt the heat as I did. That tea was a little hot, but a good kind of hot because this was about another person who is, in my opinion, objectively just a dick overall, or just objectively arrogant, just flat out arrogant in of herself. Anyways, it's almost 30 minutes anyway in this recording. I'm going to just stop it here because I don't want to take up too much of your guys' time, because I made a promise to myself these morning tea episodes would be like 15 minutes long, and we're going just twice as long as what I imagined. Anyways, thank you guys so much for listening to me, and especially listening to my vent. I just really need to get this off my chest, and it was bugging me a lot on the day of this conversation, but I feel much better. Like I mentioned during the little table read I had with this conversation, that I was able to laugh at some of the lines she said to me. It's just, I'm able to laugh it off now. Like, I don't really care about it or give two poops about it. So anyways, everyone, thank you so much for listening till the end of this episode of Morning Tea, right? Second episode of Morning Tea, but overall the 6th episode of the Dwellin' Tiger podcast. Please support this podcast by listening and following me on your favorite podcast platform like Spotify, Google Podcast, and heck, even on YouTube. So subscribe on there. And the way you can look me up is just by going to that search bar and type in Dwellin' Tiger, which is spelled DWELLYN space Tiger. And that's pretty much how you can find me on those platforms. You can also support me by sharing this with your friends and family who may find this podcast overall insightful, enjoyable, or just to give them a good laugh. Whatever the case may be, share it with everyone you know. And you can contact me if you have any questions, comments, or topics that you'd like me to talk about by emailing me at dwellintiger@gmail.com or DM me on Instagram at thejoeyll, which is spelled TheJoeyll, or send me a voice or text message on the anchor.fm/Dwellin' Tiger website. Again, that's anchor.fm/Dwellin' Tiger, spelled the same way as I mentioned before, DWELLYN Tiger. And whichever platform is most convenient for you, send me those texts, send me that voice message. I am going to hear it all and will take everything into consideration. And again, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Morning Tea. I hope this put the mood for a fire weekend, for a great New Year's 2021. Hopefully vaccines come out sooner than later. Hope we're all having a good time so far into the new year. Well, it's just, the first day if you're listening to this on January 1st. But anyways, happy New Year's, everyone. And I hope everyone has a great year overall. Thanks, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye.